Welcome back, everybody. Today we are in Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, Florida to check out Howloscream for 2020. There are 10 scare zones for us to explore. 4 of them are brand new this year, although they're all new to us. This is our first year at Howloscream. So the event doesn't officially start until 7 o'clock tonight, and it runs until midnight. But if you're a Howloscream guest, you can get into the park as early as 5 o'clock, and that allows you 2 extra hours to check out the animals and the roller coasters. Just before 7 o'clock, the scare actors start taking their places to their various lands. Now, the narration from this point on is after the fact. I'll try and keep it to a minimum so you can enjoy the lands and the scenery, but I did want to give you a bit of an overview and review of each of those. Now, the first land that we went to is Lichen Landing. It's billed as, "It's always a full moon at this campground and the park rangers can't hear you scream. When the campfires burn out, will you escape the glowing eyes leering through the trees, or will you share their cursed fate?" Now, I do think this was a good start to the first land that we saw. The werewolves were everywhere, which was wonderful, and they had pretty good scenery. You know, Six Flags did a very similar scare zone last year, and I just wasn't impressed. But this one was pretty top-notch. I love that statue there. Next up, we're hitting the shortcut. This is actually our second walkthrough of the shortcut. It was actually the first scare zone that we went through, but we had some camera malfunctions. When we went through during the day, it was nice and bright and we could see everything. Unfortunately, this walkthrough is going to be pretty dark. But I would say that this probably had some of the best scenery props everywhere. I'll try and describe them as we pass, but the shortcut concept is cutting through the cemetery may seem like an easy way out, except when the corpses rise from the ground to invite you into their graves. And that's what we're looking through here. It's kind of a churchy graveyard funeral type theme. I know when we're walking past, I think we had just passed like some pallbearers carrying a coffin, and one of them just jumped out. And this seems to be like an old-time church that's, I don't know if it's supposed to be like on fire. It looks like it's smoldering remnants, and maybe that's why these are the ghosts of nuns and priests that we see. These are the scare actors that we saw in that parade a while back. But the scenery here was pretty amazing. Lots of graveyards type cemetery statues. And just scare actors everywhere. And this was just so dark that it was scary. Alright, next up we have Midway Maniacs. Now here in, Maniac Midway, we go backstage at the scariest show on earth with Sparky and his terrifying carny crew as they take over Pantopia and make the Midway their own stage of torture, creating a frenzy of fear. There's not a whole lot to say about this land. I mean, it is typical carnival style scares with crazy clowns that are out to kill you. So let's take a look. I will say I did like all of the black light effects that made it kind of fun. We don't see that in any of the other lands, I don't believe. Next up, we have Deadly Toys. Your childhood play date is now a slay date as giant toys spring to life in a murderous rampage with you in their sights. Now this is very similar to another zone we're going to see later. It's very child oriented. I think they're really playing up the contrast between the innocence of childhood and the scariness of Halloween and horror. And I think they've taken the concept too far in that there's just nothing that's too scary. It's a little bit expected, and it's almost kind of corny, unfortunately. But here we can see, again, like immatureness masquerading as scariness because maybe they're holding a knife or something. It's just, in my opinion, not scary.
Sure.
It's crazy.
Next up, we have Dia de los Muertos. Honoring the souls and spirits of those who have gone before us, guests can dance the night away in this festive zone featuring a vibrant celebration of life and traditional tastes of Mexico. Check out the projections on that building in the back. This, admittedly, was my favorite zone, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to like it because Dia de los Muertos has never really done it for me in the past. But there was just something so much fun about this zone. Everything is vibrant, and there's dancing and music. It's not intended to be so much scary as it's beautiful. Everything was just so interesting to look at, like the big projections on the walls. I just loved every minute of this zone, and we actually sat here for quite a while just watching the singers and dancers. Let's take a look. Now, in quite contrast, we have some loud music going on in Hell on Wheels. In a post-apocalypse world, the surly survivors will stop at nothing for food and supplies, destroying all who stand in their way. Can you run the gauntlet of a murderous, crazed biker gang to make it out alive? Now, this is typical apocalypse type scaring, and I think they did a pretty good job. They did a wonderful job actually on a lot of the sets, and just it's just little pieces like this cage here that are randomly scattered throughout, but there's just enough of them to give you the feel that you need. And next up we have the other sort of kiddie scare zone, as I like to call it, Little Nightmares. It's all tricks and no treats down this dark and eerie street, but there's no turning back now as childhood memories resurface with a horrifying twist. I did find this zone to be a little disappointing. I mean, the concepts are, they have all these doors everywhere, and sometimes scare zones will pop out from behind them or bang on them, but half the time you just don't see anything except Dollar Tree decorated doors. And not to mention, this was a very long pathway.
Look at that shot, man! Hell yeah! Oh God, yeah, that was great. Come on, thank you.
So I think this might have been the only bungee jumping scare actor that I saw in the whole park. I'm not entirely positive of that. It's the only thing that gives this whole zone a bit of action and interest. But hopefully we will be done soon. So at this point we needed to get off our feet for a while, so we went to see the Fiends Show to enjoy some nice socially distanced bench seating and some eye candy. The Fiends Show is the fan favorite starring Dr. Frankenstein and his frightful entourage, which will take to its largest stage ever for outdoor performances on the festival field stage. Doesn't really give you any other idea of what goes on in the show, but you get to meet Dr. Frankenstein and his very raunchy laboratory assistant Igor as they hold a party inviting other classic monsters such as the werewolf and the mummy and of course Dracula. It is pretty high energy. There's a lot of singing and dancing. We're not going to show you the whole show, of course, but I'm sure you can check it out on YouTube. Now at this point we were getting very hungry. Thankfully, we had a couple of granola bars in our bag, which we enjoyed while watching the performance, but there was a disappointing lack of food options in the entire park after the regular park hours. Even when we're walking out, you can see lots of stalls, and mostly it's just drinks for sale. So we ended up getting in the line for the Junkyard. At this point, we're very tired. The Junkyard builds itself as you'll find more than spare parts as you explore this surly scrap site. Will you make it out in one piece or be devoured by the haunted rubble? So there was actually, it looked like there was quite a bit of interesting things to see in this zone, but the lighting was just awful, so I apologize. Again, the camera can't pick up a lot of the stuff that's in virtual darkness, but it did seem like a junkyard with lots of stuff all around you and people popping out around the stuff. But it didn't seem like there were a whole lot of scare actors, and we waited a long time in this line for the Junkyard. I don't know, this was our longest line of the night. It snaked out and down for, I don't know, we were in line for probably a good 20 minutes at least. And I'm not sure why. Most of the other scare zones did not have lines. It was pretty much walk on, but this one, not the case. And at this time, again, we had this lack of food. It's getting late, we're getting tired, we're getting cranky, so I did not enjoy this one very much, but I think it had a lot of potential to be a really great scare zone, if you could see it. And it is ending. It's a little unclear if this, something else is going to happen. Is this just a walkway back to the main area? Because it was quite a long, lengthy walkway just to get back to the main scare zones, which next up is the escape. Now the escape says, in this treacherous realm, chaos reigns and rules are made to be broken. The escaped inmates of Grey Echo Penitentiary seek their own twisted form of justice, and they're ready to deliver your sentence. As this crazy man just did. This was, again, a great concept for a scare zone, because now we have people acting crazy, but they have a legit reason to be. And they had pretty good sets as well. It did seem perhaps a bit sparse, maybe because a lot of the area is very open. Now, overall, the park didn't have a whole lot of scares between the zones. There's so much walking to do in this entire park that you need to be prepared for that. We spent from 7 to 11 pretty much just walking the scare zones and seeing the show without riding any rides. So you could easily, again, just spend your entire time in the scare zones walking around. Need to be prepared for that, but not a whole lot of scares between the zones. Occasionally they'll have people in bushes that'll jump out or even just like shout out to you, which is even more scary than someone jumping out. But I think the sparseness of all the zones and the spread out nature between them does kind of bring you out of the whole scary Halloween vibe.
What? Did you think that getting in my face was not going to grab my attention? What is it that you want? No. Tell me, what do you want? You got my face, so tell me, what is it? Because you're wasting my time. Behold, our topic on channel. You will feed all of us for eternity. Humanity is not our friend. Humanity is a disease, and we will eradicate each and every one of you. Believe me when I say that.
At this point, we're ready to leave, cutting out an hour early, and we encountered all of this wonderful projection mapping at the front of the park right after you come through the entrance gates. This is not an official scare zone, but it was really neat to see all the effects on the walls. And it seemed to rotate through different scenes, so we stayed for a couple of them. Some of them looked better than the others, of course. Like, it's kind of creepy seeing these zombies climb down walls, but I really like the fire effects. And finally, we made our way to the final scare zone of the night, which is called First Fear. You should see it when you come into the park, if you come directly for Howloscream. If you stay in the park during the day, you'll miss this completely until you leave, which kind of defeats the purpose of the First Fear, which is the icons of Howloscream's haunted past are the first frights to greet you. rising from the dead and bringing over 20 years of fear back to life. Now, this being our first Howloscream, I don't recognize any of these characters, and us being so tired and hungry and ready to leave, I had no desire to stick around and really learn about them. But I do look forward to coming back in future years. The scare zones were great. I can't wait to see what they do with haunted houses. So until next year, until next time, thanks for watching, take care, and happy haunting.